Welcome to the Healing Grove podcast. I'm Dr. Kristin, an integrative holistic family physician, author of Life After Lyme, and host in this virtual space of learning, healing, and growing. I believe humans are like trees, and our physical limb is only one of many. Health on all limbs of the tree, emotional, conceptual, social, spiritual, is absolutely required for the whole tree that is you to be vibrantly well. I created the Healing Grove podcast as a place to showcase some of the world's best integrative and holistic medicine, to expose you to transformative tools and mindset shifts for all limbs of your tree. I hope you enjoy our conversation in the Healing Grove today as much as I enjoyed having it. Greetings, everyone, and hello to Chloe Weber, who's our guest today. Thank you so much for being here, Chloe.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure.
Awesome. I'm going to start by introducing you, and then we're going to get into it. We have a lot to talk about today, and I think everyone's going to find it fascinating. But first, let me say this is my friend Chloe Weber. She's a licensed acupuncturist and a master of Oriental medicine. As a medical provider and self-described herb nerd, which I can attest to, Chloe knows that the current one-size-fits-all approach to hemp is not, in fact, the most effective way to work with this powerful plant. So she founded Radical Roots, an online herbal company that harnesses the wisdom of Chinese medicine to unlock the potential of full spectrum hemp. And her role as a mother also fuels her passion. Her first product that she created was an herbal hemp blend called Remy's Revenge, which she developed in order to help her sweet son, Remy, who has an impressively rare genetic disorder causing global delays and catastrophic epilepsy. Her mission is to bring the power and potential of Chinese medicine to the world. So thank you, Chloe, for being willing to talk with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Kristin.
You bet. So there's so many important points I want to get to, but I want to not skip over the most important point, which is how you got on this path. Tell us a little bit about your story and what brought you to this mode of healing.
So I got into Chinese medicine. One of my best friend's mother had metastatic breast cancer, and she was sick for a very, very long time. And when I was in high school, she actually paid for me and her daughter to go and get acupuncture to quit smoking cigarettes because we were rogue little New York girls. And that was my first experience with it. It was very interesting. And then further along in my life, I started thinking about what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I was thinking about public health, and that was always something that was very interesting to me. When I was in high school, I actually got cutaneous leishmaniasis when I was hiking in Costa Rica. I don't know if you knew that.
You're kidding. I've never met anyone who got that.
You didn't know that?
No, but that like flashed back to the pictures of pathology, like in microbiology. Like
that might have been me.
It was horrifying to look at.
It was crazy. So I had all of these lesions all over my right elbow and then on my face. I was a 15-year-old girl in New York City. So people would stop me on the subway. It was really dramatic and traumatic. And so I studied ecology and evolutionary biology at my undergrad at CU Boulder. And then I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I sort of putzed around in the corporate world and then was wanting to go back to school for public health. But really found that the Western model was sort of more of a band-aid than I was looking for, and stumbled into Chinese medicine and really just felt like that was such an incredible framework for us to look at public health interventions through, because Chinese herbology and Chinese medicine really looks at the whole person and really is able to identify patterns of disharmony within the body before they elevate into something that's really pathogenic. So I really, I sort of stumbled into it, and I genuinely could not love what I do anymore. I love Chinese medicine. I just think it's such a beautiful, beautiful, safe and effective medical practice. And it's been really fun, and it's evolved a lot over the past couple of years. So it's been great.
I want to say something about that, the subtlety with which a diagnosis can be made with Chinese medicine, because that was new to me when I did medical acupuncture, which is a far inferior in terms of the amount of time and commitment and learning that happens for a licensed acupuncturist like yourself. But it was 300 hours of CME during residency. And I remember that kind of notion of, wow, there's so many things you can pick up and treat before they become obvious on a lab test or on a CAT scan or on an MRI. And one of the phrases that sticks in my mind from my teacher at the time was pending protoplasmic catastrophe, meaning there's something brewing. It's not going to show up on a lab yet. You may just have a vague sense of unwellness or lack of vitality, but there's something that Chinese medicine can do for that.
Exactly. Well, and it's really just finding the disharmony within the body. I mean, we all have them. So just finding where the disharmonies are, finding where your patterns lie, like what sort of weaknesses you have, whether that's digestion or whether that's stress or whatnot. But we can look at that and how that's acting within the body. And then we can help work to sort of rebalance that and help the energy flow the way that it should, help the organs work the way that they're supposed to. So it's really, I mean, it's a poetic and beautiful medicine, and it's really lasted the test of time. So
right, like 5,000 years of time.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I don't think anybody would want some of the early acupuncture treatments.
Right. Weren't the needles like
it was like a stone.
Glass. Yeah. Yeah. They're much they're like hair-like now.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think you can fit 30 or 35 acupuncture needles in one hypodermic needle. So they're very
syringe or something that you get at the doctor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell people, can you back up? Because I understand what you mean when you say the flow of energy and the organs, but can you give kind of an overview for people to whom this is brand new information?
So with Chinese medicine, we look at the body as having 12 different energy meridians that flow throughout the body. So basically, when there's disharmony within the body, then you're going to see a difference in the change of flow of energy. So how to best describe this? So that's one of the things that we're looking at. We're looking at how the energy is flowing. If you have pain in one area, there's likely sort of a stagnation of energy in that area. But also the organs and your body, sorry, let me back up. So your brain and your body interconnect, obviously. So one of the best ways to think about it is if you're looking at it as stress. So what in Chinese medicine, we associate stress with the liver. So the liver is in charge of how the energy is flowing throughout your body. So when you get stressed, the liver sort of constrains and then energy is not flowing the way that it should be. So what we want to do is then move that energy through the liver so that it's not constrained. So when your liver is constrained, what you can see, you'll see patterns like, I look at it, I think of it as like a car running its tires and then like the heat rising. So that heat from the liver can rise and harass the heart. So you'll see some stress. So you really want to cool and move the liver. So we just look at different ways that we can make sure that the flow of energy is working throughout the body, but then we also have different correlations to each organ, what they're doing. It's a very complex system. It's sort of hard to describe in a one-off, but I remember one of my teachers saying, you just sort of have to memorize everything for the first year of school, and then at some point it's all going to click in. But we have a different way of looking at all the organs than Western medicine does and how they all interrelate. And it really is a whole body and whole brain way of looking at it. So it's pretty cool.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the liver, in particular, the timing of when the liver is most active and how that might show up in someone who has a weak liver or a stressed liver, because I think it's so relevant for people who get complex chronic illness. Many times they're part of the reason they're sick from their illness, and more so than the next person, is because their body has accumulated so many toxins. And when the liver's overburdened, that can show up at different times of day. Am I right?
So often with liver disharmonies, we'll see people wake up between 1 and 3 in the morning. So in Chinese medicine, we also have a clock that correlates to different times and different organs. And each organ has a different color, a different smell, a different energetic action. Oh, I've got a cat. You were supposed to be out of the room. A different energetic action, a different taste. So the timing for the liver is between 1 and 3 in the morning. So if you're waking up at that time, it's normally an indication that you're having some issues with stress or you're having some issues with detoxification. And there are different ways that we can address that through acupuncture, herbs, or dietary. I mean, you're going to be putting out a tremendous amount of resources for different ways to help that. But that's one of the main indicators, that's often seen. And it's probably something that people complain about a lot. I know for my son, Remy, it blows me away because he has epilepsy. And so but his gut and his brain is so interconnected, Dr. Goose, that he always comes on when I'm doing webinars every single time.
Right. He's welcome. He's welcome on. Yeah. He needs to be.
But the gut and the brain is so interconnected, and it's amazing to watch with Remy because he will literally wake up at 5 a.m., which is large intestine time in Chinese medicine. He will have a seizure, and then he'll have a big blowout poop. That's the only time he has seizures anymore. And it's normally every 2 months, but it's incredible to see. The clock really does correlate very well clinically when you watch it.
Yeah. So you have a whole herbal line. Do you have specific herbs to support the liver for people who are experiencing the wakings from 1 to 3, for example?
Yeah, so the formula that is most commonly prescribed, probably one of the most commonly prescribed Chinese herbal formulas for hundreds of years, is called Xiaoyaosan. It's a free and easy wanderer. So what it does, so in Chinese medicine, we really look at the liver and the spleen are really important, and they interact a lot. And in Chinese medicine, the spleen is really in charge of digestion. So if you have a spleen disharmony, you're going to see people sort of overthinking. It's sort of like mental mastication. You're going over things. You're not really processing the way that you should. And often if you're stressed out, you're going to see the liver sort of harassing the spleen. It's a whole cycle of how the organs work together. I should have drawn it out for you guys, but I can always provide that in a resource. But so the liver and the spleen interact. So basically, Xiaoyaosan, how it works is it soothes the liver, it gets the qi moving so that it doesn't have that stagnation, but then it also supports the spleen aspect because you really always want to support those two to balance it out. So it supports with digestion, it supports with liver qi flow. And that's also important for regulating the menses as well as with stress. And it's interesting, the formula that we have, the version of Xiaoyaosan that we have in my company is called Flow State. And I called it Flow State for a couple of reasons. One, because it helps with regulating the menses, and it's been used for that for a really long time. And then 2, because a lot of the herbs have been studied for their anxiolytic properties. It's also been studied to be neuroprotectant. And then there are some herbs that we added that help increase BDNF. So it helps with brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So it really helps with cognitive function, really helps you feel like you're on top of your game. And I know that especially with a lot of people with chronic challenging health disorders, the brain fog can tick in pretty quickly and pretty powerfully. So it's one of my favorite formulas. I certainly took it before doing this call.
Nice. There's a testimonial. So a lot of people who've not used herbs before might be a little nervous about trying something without guidance. What kind of guidance do people need to can they just go on a website and buy some herbs? Is that safe to do? Or should they work with a practitioner or talk to you? What is the best step for someone who wants to explore this?
So the gold standard, so Chinese herbology is really just an incredible system of healing. And it's something that I've found to be so effective and safe for these complicated, challenging cases because it's something, so we have about 400 herbs that we commonly use. And ideally what we do as practitioners, as licensed herbalists and acupuncturists, is we customize a formula specifically for each patient for exactly what they're going through. And so as we've seen with COVID, no 2 people responded exactly the same. And then as symptoms change, we change the formula. So instead of just saying, here's this antibiotic or here's this antiviral, we really, really closely tailor our formulas to every detail of the person. So you're going to get a different formula, even if you're presenting the same way, your body responds to something differently than I do. So that's the absolute best way to do that, is to work with a licensed herbalist and get a customized formula. On the flip side, there are, so for my company, what I've found is that there's not enough framework and that it's additional hoops and costs for people in order to get customized herbal formulas. So what I did with my personal line, Radical Roots, was try and look at the most commonly presenting patterns that lead to one specific ailment. So say for our rest and relax. So that's obviously to help with stress and help people with insomnia, calm that monkey mind. So I looked at the different patterns that commonly lead to insomnia and stress. So, you know, there's a little bit of liver moving action in there to help with the stress and the free flow of blood. There's some herbs to nourish the spleen that's going to help with the monkey mind in case you're sort of worried a lot. And then there's some herbs that really nourish the heart in Chinese medicine, really like help with the shen. So the shen is like the spirit, and you'll often see the shen on somebody's face. You know, you can notice if somebody is sort of like drawn out and exhausted, or just, you know, when you look at somebody's eyes, that's where you see the shen. And so the rest and relax is really helping nourish that also. So I looked at the different patterns that get to that end game. So it was more of a safer, you know, so I tried to make it as safe of a product as possible for people to be able to say, you know, to sort of grab it off the shelf. So that's sort of how I did it, but different companies have different ways. There's also lots of research on different Chinese, you know, our classical Chinese herbal formulas. So you can look around online, but you're going to get the best results with a practitioner.
Great. So tell us a little bit about the way in which you can use Chinese herbs to potentiate the impacts of hemp, because hemp has become a really popular product in the last few years. A lot of people are using CBD oils or hemp oils. Talk to us a little bit about that, and what's special about the way in which you kind of partner those two herbs together.
Yeah. So when Remy was diagnosed with epilepsy and with his rare disorder STX-BP1, you know, I went to Family Hope Center, who I highly recommend to every single family always. They are my heroes, Dr. Kristin in particular. But, you know, I looked at what was out there. I tried a bunch of different hemp oils, and it was all sort of this one size fits all model. And to me, as an herbalist, you know, as I mentioned, we really like to customize our herbs and really look at each particular pattern. So while I loved hemp and did a lot of research on so many incredible actions. I mean, it's, you know, again, anxiolytic, it helps with inflammation, it helps calm the vagus nerve, it helps, you know, potentiate specific bacteria in the gut. It helps with neurogenesis in the hippocampus. I mean, it's an incredible plant. But Chinese herbs, what we do is we use Chinese herbs in order to direct the actions of the hemp. So we look at it, you know, we don't look at herbs in the way that Western medicine sort of looks at herbs or medicine. It's not a one size fits all. It's, you know, like, it's really how these plants and like herbal products all really work together. So we sort of just looked at hemp as another herb in terms of its actions and added it to various formulas so that we could really potentiate it and make it focus more towards the different things that people are really using hemp for. So we have like one that's for pain relief. That's our relief remedy. We have a topical and an internal. So that has a bunch of herbs that are known to stop pain in Chinese medicine. Again, as I was saying, when there's stagnation, there's pain. That's like a classical Chinese herb proverb. So like, we want to move the stagnation. So we have herbs that move blood in that formula. It's based off of a formula that's, again, been used for hundreds of years to stop pain in the back and the hips. So it's pretty cool to have it so that it's really potentiated for different actions as opposed to sort of just the one size fits all.
Very cool. Are other companies doing this? I don't feel like I've seen anyone else pairing these things.
A couple have started recently, which might be great. I'm particularly in love with our extraction method as well, and I haven't been able to figure out how other people are doing their extraction, which makes me a little curious as to how they're doing it. So we found a brilliant chemist physicist who lives up in the mountains here in Colorado, and he does an extraction technique called spagyrics. So it's very, very interesting. So he tinctures the herbs and he tinctures the hemp, and then he takes the plant material after the tincturing, he burns it for 6 to 8 hours. I have cat hair on my nose. He burns it for 6 to 8 hours. And then from the ashes, he's able to reconstitute the minerals and the salts of the plants and then put it back into the tincture, which creates this alchemical reaction, which really potentiates a lot of the actions. And the minerals are such an important part of hemp. So hemp is a super mineral rich plant, which is amazing. And it's great because it pulls up a lot of minerals and heavy metals from the soil. So that's one reason you want to be very careful about which brand you're using of hemp, because it will pull out toxins from the soil. But the minerals are in the plant for a reason. So we look at the, what is it called? So with cannabis, you're always sort of looking for like a whole plant extract as opposed to the parts. So the minerals are the part of the plant that almost all companies leave out. So this is the only way that I know that we can actually get that out. And it's just night and day. I have so many people email and tell me that they were on 3 times the amount of another formula, or, you know, our products just are way stronger and more effective for X, Y, or Z. And it's been really profound to see the results. I'm really proud of our products.
Wow. So I didn't realize that hemp can concentrate toxins from the soil. That's really fascinating. I mean, often the same kind of shape and charge on a mineral, you know, matches those of toxins, which is why when the body's detoxing, you're sometimes also getting rid of mineral. You know, if you're binding up toxins in the gut and pooping them out, you're often taking minerals with them. And so you have to be really good about replacing your minerals. But I didn't know that the hemp plant does that.
It does. And it's one of the things that's so beautiful about it, because so we use a farmer. I mean, I'm just so proud of the people who I work with. They're just,
do share. Let's hear more about it.
They're so brilliant. So he does as close to no-till farming techniques as he possibly can. He's up in Longmont here. It's one guy. He goes up to like a healing spring and gets, you know, mineral water that, like, I'm sure is, you know, 4th phase structured water from this healing spring, brings it down. But he does next to no-till farming techniques. So he just rotates 8 different cover crops that are native to Colorado to potentiate different minerals and microbes and pollinators and whatnot. And when you do that, you actually not only pull up toxins from the earth with the hemp, but you're actually increasing topsoil, which many of us know is a massive problem for our environment and for global warming. So we really need to potentiate topsoil. So hemp is such a beautiful way to not only help heal us, but help heal our earth. So it's really amazing. And I couldn't be more proud or in awe of the people that I work with. They're so brilliant and so much fun.
How did you find those guys? How'd you find that one guy up with his bucket and his springs?
Oh my God, magic. I mean, it was just meant to be. I mean, they're both just so amazing. So it's been really, really fun. And it's, you know, it's one of those projects where I know exactly every hand that's on it. You know, I get my Chinese herbs also, you know, obviously we're getting almost all of them from China. It's really important to make sure that you're getting herbs that's clean. That's something that I probably should have mentioned earlier about Chinese herbs as well. You want to go with a reputable company that you trust, because some herbs have heavy metals or fillers or, you know, pesticides on them. You really want to make sure that people are giving you the highest quality products that they can get, because herbs, just like anything else, can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of people who would be taking them are obviously already full of toxins and don't want to add any more through the.
Exactly. And for me, you know, my greatest passion is working with children with neurodevelopmental disorders or epilepsy, or adults with neurological disorders. I work with a lot of complex cases. The last thing I want to be doing is adding more toxins into their system. So that's why I get concerned about the hemp field as a whole, because you really can run into trouble with that.
Right. So we were talking before we got on about some of the lessons of Chinese medicine. And I wonder if you wouldn't share that sort of summary. It was such a beautiful list of things that Chinese medicine does that's unique, really.
So Chinese medicine, it really is just so beautiful. I mean, it's based on Taoism in a lot of ways, and it really looks at the mind and the body and how everything interconnects. And it also respects, you know, your journey. So as a practitioner, we're really trained not only in Western and in Eastern medicine, but we're trained to look at you as a person, to hear your story. I mean, I can't tell you, and I'm sure you've experienced this in practice also, how many people have come in to see me who are just, you know, just devastated. They've been to so many doctors and nobody's listened to them. And it's so important to listen to what your patient's saying, to their story, to their path, to their soul, to their trauma, and to put that all into place. And that all has a place in our medicine. So we really can use our needles in order to access and release deeper traumas. That's one thing that I really see commonly. A lot of times when I have patients come in with complex medical needs, one of the first things I'll do is, we call them the demons treatments. So there's 5-element acupuncture. There are a bunch of different styles of acupuncture. 5-element is sort of based on, it's a little bit more esoteric and based on sort of how the elements work together. So the elements are like wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. So how they all interplay. So the demons treatments are one of those, are sort of considered a 5-element treatment, but they help release internal and external demons. So I've seen such profound shifts in people's shen and people's ability to process their trauma after just a treatment or two with these sort of shamanic treatments, really, when they're able to start processing and releasing some of these deeper traumas, because we all have them. And, and that's one of the first steps towards healing. And I also think that just listening to patients and actually respecting them, respecting what they're saying and believing them, instead of saying, my lab work doesn't show this yet, so you can't possibly have this, like I believe every word that my patient says. If you say you have pain, I actually believe that you have pain. So, I think that that's also just out the bat, like a very profound shift in how we look at it. We don't need, this to manifest in a lab work. We can feel these shifts in you, and we can take note of it through your pulse, through your tongue, through looking at your ear. I mean, we have so many different ways to diagnose and to assess how a body and a person is doing. So that's really fun as a practitioner, and it's really cool because it's also like a lifelong learning. There's never going to be an end to what I have to study with Chinese medicine, because, as we said, it's thousands of years old. So that's really fun for me as a nerdy nerd.
and as you said earlier with the whole COVID thing, you're changing your treatment because the person in front of you is changing. So you're always, even if you're only working with one person for your whole career, you're still learning, because that person is evolving and transforming and needing different kinds of inputs and support.
Exactly. It's always an evolution.
So I want to go back to something you said that pretty much made me cry, which is that I believe my patient. Because I know there are a lot of people who are listening to this who have not felt believed or heard. And they've all now Googled you, and they want to know if they can come see you. So is it that any acupuncturist would say that and believe? Is that part of the training? I mean, that's certainly part of my training. I feel family doctors are sort of trained to develop the relationship and understand their patient as a person. And is that something that they can find in any acupuncturist or herbalist? Yeah.
No, I mean, that is our training. I mean, our training is to really see the whole person, and to, even if, sometimes symptoms are manifesting in one way, but they're being caused by something else internally. Maybe the symptoms manifest, and Western medicine might just call it like psychosomatic or whatever. I'm in a doctorate program, and one of my teachers yesterday called a couple of different chronic ailments psychosomatic, and I was really appalled, because
Which for the record means it's in your head.
Yeah. And I was like, excuse me.
We're not okay with that.
I was like, well, no. But like, even if a symptom is a manifestation of, so in Chinese medicine, even if a symptom is a manifestation of an emotional trauma, that's still just as valid as this, and it's all interconnected. The physiology, the chemical aspects, the energetic aspects, it's all interconnected. So to us, we just don't really see a difference. Like, there's no right or wrong. It's what is going on in your body, and how can we get to the root of what that is. So like, we're always talking about like root and branch symptoms. So it's like, you might have these symptoms, and like, so we obviously want to deal with that in a treatment. We want to deal with that with acupuncture. We want to deal with that with herbs. We want to deal with that with helping you, empower you to learn how to breathe right, or to do qigong, or, you know, whatever it is that we feel is most appropriate for the person at the time. But then we're going to look deeper and say, like, where is this really coming from? Is this starting in the gut, which we have a whole school of Chinese medicine from, you know, again, thousands of years ago, that is the school of the spleen and stomach. So there's a school of Chinese medicine that's just dedicated to saying that the root of all disease comes from the gut, which we know, and like many of us know now, is largely true. But, you know, it could be, you know, is this disorder coming from the gut? Is this disorder coming from a trauma? And, you know, whether it's coming from a trauma, or whether it's coming from a parasite, or from a cancer, or whatever it is, it's still a valid disorder. Like, it's still a valid issue.
Like, all disorders are valid. Let's just start there. Like, if you're suffering, your suffering's real.
Exactly.
And just because we don't have a name for it, or a lab test that comes out positive, doesn't mean you don't have real suffering, or there isn't something to do.
And that's exactly the beauty of Chinese medicine. We don't, you know, even like with Remy. So Remy, my son, before, he didn't get diagnosed till he was 2.5. So he's my only child. I'd never changed a diaper before him. So I had no idea that my slothy, happy baby was like super delayed. I was like, yeah, he's just a Buddha kid. He's just like his mom. He's fine.
Well, it could be that as well. There could be two things going on.
It's both, yes, true. But so, you know, in Chinese medicine, I just always get, like, I really didn't even want a diagnosis for him, because I just look at him through the lens of Chinese medicine. And in Chinese medicine, he's got wind. So wind is anything, if you're going to see a tic, a tremor, you know, a seizure, anything like that. Most neurological conditions in Chinese medicine are considered wind disorders. So Remy has wind, and then he has, you know, he had heat rising. So like, and I'm sure you see this with a lot of kids where they're sweating a lot at night. That's heat rising to the head. What other things? So then he has some digestive issues. So then we're working on the gut, the spleen, and the stomach. So I didn't need this 1 in 20 million genetic disorder for Remy in order for me to start treating him, you know, and that didn't hold me back at all. And if anything, I think that the diagnosis probably puts him in a box that might be unnecessary and limiting. But it's also helpful to know in some ways, and it's great to have a community, which I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this know. It's nice to have a community, especially when you're dealing with something rare and challenging and debilitating.
Yeah. So how many people are in that community with you?
I think there are about 400 diagnosed, we call them STXers. I think there are about 400 children with Remy's disorder that have been diagnosed, but it was only found, I want to say about 9 years ago, they only discovered this particular genetic disorder. So a lot of people with disabilities who are older likely haven't gotten testing for it. So we have a hearty Facebook group, and they're all very sweet. So it's really nice to have that sort of extended family, and then get to root for the other kids as they go along their journey.
I mean, I'm sure the answer is yes, but just maybe get some specifics. Do you feel like the herbs and the hemp oil make a huge difference for Remy?
I do. He still will have breakthrough cluster seizures, but he is not on any seizure meds. He's not on any pharmaceuticals. And most of the children with his disorder are on multiple seizure meds and don't have as good seizure control as he does, as far as I've seen. And I've dug pretty deeply into the experiences of others on our group. So, you know, and also, the best part was that, and I'm sure I complained to you about this plenty when I first met you, Remy didn't sleep. He just did not sleep for probably a couple years, and I'm primarily a solo parent, so I have Remy full time. So no sleep for about 3 years, where he would just be up, 20, 30 times a night. And it wasn't that he would have seizures, but he had irregular brainwave activity at nighttime. And so this has really helped calm that down. And, for him to be able to sleep, and then for me to be able to sleep, I mean, it just absolutely changed our lives as well. So that's been really great.
Awesome. Yes, it turns out to matter. in a huge way.
Shockingly enough, slightly important.
Well, we've talked about a lot of really important things that matter. Are there any things that we've missed that you'd want to say to this population?
Well, just sort of more on a personal note, I just want to remind people who are dealing with chronic and challenging, debilitating disorders, like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. Your body is actually responding exactly the way that it's supposed to. We're not really meant to be in this environment. You know, we are inundated daily with massive amounts of toxins, with heavy metals, with EMFs, with all of it. You know, our foods are toxic. We are under so much stress personally, societally. I mean, especially right now, you know, after COVID and everything that's going on. I mean, there's so much on our system. So your body acting out and rebelling is probably exactly what your body is meant to be doing for all of this. That being said, I really want people to also remember to be patient with themselves and be easy with themselves. I know for me, it's a constant battle of wanting to do everything for Remy. I want to make sure I'm doing everything perfect, and I got to take care of myself, and I got to make sure that I do this. And, you know, you can't do everything, and you can't do it all at once. And, you know, embracing the fact that it's a journey and that you are on a path, and that this, whatever disorder you have is trying to tell you something and is trying to teach you something. And sometimes it can be really profound and help you lead towards, there's another cat, lead towards, lead towards helping other people in profound ways. So, you know, to me, I really focus on something is better than nothing. So just keep the focus on taking small steps forward, you know, towards your goal, towards greater health, and towards, you know, just really being the highest manifestation of who you are that you can be. And just also have peace with that. Some days that's not going to look so pretty, and that's okay too.
Beautiful. I love that permission. And if somebody wanted to take a next step in the direction of learning more about how their body is manifesting symptoms that might match up with an herb, or, you know, call for some self-help tool to help them move chi through the liver, what would be a next step they could take with you?
Well, they're welcome to reach out to me at Chloe@radicalrootsherbs.com. And then we could schedule a call.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you know, if you are in an area where you're looking to get in touch with an acupuncturist that you can see locally, I can also help with referrals so that you can find somebody that you can work with one-on-one in your area if you're not in Colorado or New York. So I can do phone consults for New Yorkers since I'm licensed there, and I see patients in person in Colorado. But I can also, you know, I've got a wide network of really heart-centered, intelligent, really beautiful, incredible practitioners that I'd be more than happy to help people sort through to find the right one for them.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Chloe. This has been illuminating, and I'm so grateful for your time.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so excited to watch all the other videos and learn more from everybody else.
Me too. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Healing Grove podcast. If you liked it, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to deepen your experience further, consider grabbing a copy of the Healing Grove playbook. With journal prompts for this podcast and 41 others, it's the perfect place to record your learnings, keep track of the tools you explore, and reflect on your own experience. Finally, it's important to mention that even though I am a doctor, nothing you hear on this podcast, whether from myself or my guests, constitutes medical advice. Any intervention you try should always be discussed with and supervised by a trusted member of your own healing team. Thanks for listening, and see you next time in the Healing Grove.